and welcome to another episode of Rural Living and Innovation. Today we're doing a full video of the ceiling installation. So the first step was to install the insulation blankets. I think ordinarily in a normal ceiling where you have those, I don't know what they're called, but in Zulu we call them buttons, those square planks or square timber, that is like, if it's installed properly, you just put the insulation blanket on top of the blankets and the planks, and then install the ceiling on the planks, so the material would not need to be like fixed in any way. But because of my situation, I had to like fix it. I considered just putting it in between the roof and the wood that is going vertically. Yeah, the wood, not the planks. But then I thought there wouldn't be any breathing room between the roof and the blanket. So as much as it's not a lot, it at least it's there if I install it this way. So I installed the blankets in 2 phases. The first time I installed, you see, I sewed it while it was on the roof already. And then this time I'm doing some of the sewing while it's on the ground, and then some of the sewing when it's on the roof. And I just sewed it together on the side before I split it, so it wouldn't take up as much floor space, if you know what I'm saying. Like if I split it before I sew it, it would take up 4 by 4 meters instead of 2 by 4 meters, if that makes sense. So this is normal thread. I considered using a fishing line, but it was too strong and it was tearing the blanket, so I just used normal thread, and then in some parts of the blankets I used wool. I started splitting the blanket while it was on the ground so that I wouldn't pin both sides to the roof, and then I just removed the stuff and pinned one side of the blanket to the pole or the wood, and then once it was pinned, I just like tore it down. Once it's like properly pinned down, I could tear the last bits and pieces of the ceiling that were still together. But even then, I did it as I was like nailing down the other parts, because I didn't want it to be too much to handle. I didn't want too much surface area to handle, because it is a bit heavy, especially if you're holding it up. Doing this alone is a little bit tricky, because as much as I was pulling the fabric, I also didn't want it for some material to be left in the middle. So I just eventually was just like and then just sewing the last bits together. So this part also wasn't nailed down or up, and I nailed it up and then started sewing it together. So in this part of the blanket, or insulation blanket, I used wool instead of normal thread because it was just a lot, son. As much as these videos look like it's been done over a few days, this actually took me a couple of months to like decide the concept and then do it. So the next phase was nailing down the boards. Unfortunately, I didn't record the first part of the video, but I recorded the other parts of us installing the boards. So we'd already installed the boards on the left, and I think these are called cover strips, and the cover strips are just to secure the mesonite board onto the roof, because mesonite boards aren't really strong, and sometimes the nail head or the head of the nail can just like pop through the board, and we don't want that. So we secured the mesonite board with the cover strips. So with the board, with the cover strips, there is a cover strip every 50 centimeters or so. Yeah, and because we'd already installed the cover strips out on this side, we decided that we would slide the middle part under the piece that we'd already installed. And this was more efficient than the first part, to be quite honest, because we were still figuring out how to do the thing actually. So this was the last part of the board that we had to install. One of the boards is a bit wonky, but we'll figure it out. I've already got a plan. It just has to be done. So we just literally just nail it onto the wood, and you use the broom to sort of figure out where the middle is. Where the pole or the timber is, because otherwise you can't see through the mesonite. Looking back at the video, I now realize why it was a bit wonky, because like I pressed the broom in the middle of the poles instead of on the pole, and that influences how level the thing is. We don't have equipment, guys, and we can't wait until we have all the equipment that we need to do the things that we want. If the ceiling has to be taken down in like 3 years and I have more money, I'll do so, but I won't deny myself the experience of having a ceiling, just because what I'm doing is not conventional or traditionally, like I'm just gonna do it and be okay with it. This is one of those situations, where it's like the method that we're using is not traditionally acceptable, or it's not necessarily best practice, but rather we do this that isn't conventional, then, yeah, to have a space that I don't necessarily like. So the last board is up, and then I bought cover strips, but I realized they were too thin. So we still have to install cover strips across and to just like seal the places where the mesonite boards meet properly and where it's nailed down so that it covers that. And then the last part will be and then we have to paint and install the thing on the side. I don't know what it's called, child, but it's like, I think it's a skirt for the ceiling. Or a frill for the ceiling. So that will be the last part. We're just now installing the 2 planks or cover strips that we have, and that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you here next time I publish a video. And cheers.